Good morning, and thank you for having me here. I got in early this morning from San Francisco, so I wanted to talk a little bit about the change in the application architecture that is happening in front of us. You know, for the longest time, the applications that our customers talked to us about were rendered on a personal computer. That was the norm for the last 20 years. And it was run on an infrastructure that was defined by a client-server computing architecture. I think both of those endpoints in the technology paradigm have changed and changed fundamentally. On the client, you're talking about an immersive, multi-screen, multi-device user experience. On the platform or the infrastructure, you're talking about a mashup of a hybrid cloud, where some of the application is delivered from your on-premises environment, and some of it is delivered from third-party environments or application sources that you only participate briefly with. So how do you think about engineering a new architecture for the next decade? You know, one of the fundamental principles that we see within the work that we do with our customers in Silicon Valley and around the world is that the core enabling technology is proceeding at a rate and pace that is unprecedented. You know, on the end user devices, you have a variety of form factors, from mobiles to laptops to handheld devices to wearable computers to all types of platforms that enable you to deliver new types of services and wrap your consumer or your end customer in an immersive 360-degree user experience. Connecting those endpoints is a ubiquitous network, wireless network, that is seamlessly provides connectivity end-to-end from any of these endpoints to any of the data sources that they want to talk to. Computing is increasingly pervasive and embedded. You know, Pari talked about devices and things that you may be able to ingest. I think there's going to be computing in nanoscale technologies in the next decade. And then finally, storage, which is what our company focuses on, is increasingly cost-effective, scalable, and intelligent. You know, in 1 week, we ship today what we shipped in a year 3 years ago. That is the rate of increase in data storage consumption. In 1 week, NetApp ships more storage today than we did 3 years ago for an entire year. And new capabilities like flash memory provide for a real-time experience to access data and information. So where do you start? You start by thinking about what is the goal or the objective that you're trying to take advantage of all of these embedded capabilities to exploit. And today people talk about social, mobile analytics, the cloud. You know, we look at social as a new way to connect people with other people, a new form of collaboration. Mobile is the idea that you can have access to information with you pervasively at all times. And you can actually interact with that information in a way that you never would be able to do before, as well as provide context to the information, because you can actually tell the service that you're interacting with where you are or what you're doing in a way that you couldn't before. Analytics, you know, following Hal Varian's principle, as the amount of data and information grows, information about that information is much more valuable than the data itself. So people talk about big data, people talk about analytics. And one of the fundamental things that we see that is missing in that conversation is not about the technology. It's about the person that can actually harness the insights from the big data. You know, people call them data scientists. People who can actually put together the different sources of information and come up with a coherent insight out of it. The cloud. You know, we see our customers talking to us about the cloud all day long, and the reason is that the cloud provides you the ability to deliver the world's specialists at the end of a wire. That's really what's transformative about the cloud. It gives you the opportunity to access the world's specialists at the end of a digital wire. And in addition, gives you new applications and business models. So what we see happening within our customer base is that what we call the systems of engagement, the way you interact with your customers, the way you interact with external audiences, are progressing quickly. You see rich, immersive user experiences. You see people trying to exploit new types of communication, whether they are social media communications or mobile handheld services. But there is still a lack of integration with the systems of record, which makes these experiences truly transformative. You know, the reason that Amazon.com is so successful is because they close the loop. They don't just provide you with a nice front-end website, but it is because their logistics and customer support experience backing up that application is phenomenal. You can buy a product from Amazon and you can return it with no questions asked, and they will process your refund on the day that you return the product. And that allows you to reduce the risk of doing a transaction with that company. So integration of the systems of engagement with the systems of record and the business process is crucial to make these applications truly transformative. Now, all of this provides a big opportunity. And the place that you need to start when we think about all of this is, what are we trying to do? You know, many companies sort of wander into social media, for example, without a clear agenda for why am I taking on social media? And then they end up causing themselves a lot of damage, having wandered into the social media paradigm without really having a clear perspective on why they need to be there. So, for example, you can reach the unconnected billions. With mobile access, you're able to provide access to many, many more people and reach an audience that's far larger than what you could do with a desktop computer. You can reduce transaction costs. The interaction that's required to complete a transaction today can be done electronically at a fraction of the cost that you would be able to do before, and enable new revenue streams. You know, we worked with a large bank. By enabling a mobile experience, they were able to increase revenues from an insurance product that had historically been the worst performing product in the bank by over 40% in 2 years, by just making the user experience of buying that insurance product so much better. You can improve customer service. You know, one of the things that Pari talked about is that knowing the data about how people are using your products and services allows you to provide them with a world-class user experience. I mentioned Amazon. You know, at NetApp, we have a technology called auto support, where all of our storage systems phone home periodically, multiple times a day, telling us what's going on. And we are able to cross-reference thousands and thousands of pieces of information in real time to provide real-time notifications to all of our customers around the world that, hey, customer X is having an issue here. We think that you might be at risk to experience the same situation, and proactively notify them before they're actually impacted. So taking advantage of data to provide new ways to deliver customer service and mitigating impact to customers. And finally, if you put all of this together, you can actually fundamentally improve global productivity. I think if we collectively build these new capabilities, we are able to create that next big step in global productivity that the internet delivered to the world a few years ago. Now, emerging countries have an even bigger opportunity, because see, y'all are particularly advantaged here in India. You do not have to deal with the legacy wired business models of telecommunications companies that exist in the mature economies of the world. You have an extraordinary fast growth of mobile access. Cloud computing allows people to build shared infrastructures. And so you no longer have to have every single entity that's based in a country to have its own. Today, one of the fastest innovations sources in Silicon Valley is actually Amazon Web Services. It has built a platform that is rentable by all of the startups in the world. And they're able to turn on services at far lower cost than was ever possible before. And so some of these new ideas can be applied here in the developing countries of the world to leapfrog and move ahead. Because you all are not tied to the investments of or the business models that mature countries have had. So how do you go about it? You know, when we think about the work that we do with our customers and the work that we do ourselves, we think about three things to get right. The first is organizing. You know, when you think about this multi-screen hybrid cloud architecture, it's essentially about customer intimacy. The ability to trade off things like the richness of the user experience for reach. The ability to take advantage of a common platform architecture versus a truly immersive experience tied to one platform. Those kinds of decisions are all about customer intimacy and the business that you're trying to deliver through this application service. The second is strategic thinking tightly coupled with iterative implementation. You know, in this new world, change happens quickly enough, and there are so many good ideas around you that it's important to be able to iterate quickly around the ideas that are being presented to your customers. Pari talked about, you know, reducing cycle time to a week. You know, we at NetApp have been pushing consistently to continuously engineer our software so that it's always available for release if we need to do so. And this kind of iterative implementation requires organizational structures that allow for local autonomy and distributed decision making. You know, one of the changes that we've had to deal with at NetApp is to allow our India Development Center to become a center of excellence, to have leadership, decision-making capability, architectural capability, as well as product management and engineering together so that you can make strategic decisions and link them together with engineering implementation on a standalone basis. Now, beyond that, we talk about the idea of local economics. You know, one of the things that we find with executing great services like WhatsApp is that the innovators actually really understand the customer economics very, very well, both what they're trying to enable and what they're trying to disrupt. And having the data, the local data, to make those decisions are important. And so we encourage this idea of an internal startup in country to be able to take advantage of local access and quick decision making. The second is a set of principles that define the new application architecture. You know, we talked about multi-screen on one side and hybrid cloud on the other. And fundamentally what I see is that the new paradigm for application development is a multidisciplinary paradigm that links in the liberal arts with engineering and science. You know, we talked about the data scientist as one person that was crucial in being able to think about all of the huge amounts of data to derive the fundamental value proposition that you're trying to drive from all of those data sources. That's one. The second in all of these discussions is the person that actually understands the consumer intimately. And that person is as much an artist as an engineer, is as much a business person or a consumer as an engineer. And then fundamentally engineers themselves. You know, and I think this is one of the biggest leaps that all companies, not only here in Bangalore, but even in Silicon Valley, have to make. The idea of being able to respect and integrate multidisciplinary engineering organizations. Too often, the weakest ones that we have observed are the ones where everybody looks the same. All of them are highly technical, but they don't have the multidisciplinary skill sets that are required to build this new architecture and this new paradigm. And there are new rules, the integration of design thinking with engineering. Thinking about anti-fragile systems where your applications are engineered so that even if a single unit, if any number of units fail, the application is still alive. The idea of software-defined everything, so that you can define a set of policies in software and run that against a globally available ubiquitous hardware platform called the public cloud. And then finally, balancing opportunity with risk. This is where I think things like policy and ethics and values come into place. Too often, technology companies are so caught up with the business opportunity of what they're trying to do that they forget about things like data privacy, governance, responsibility, and ethics. And so you have these large fiascos in the world where people have gone out and embraced social media without really understanding what they're trying to do with it. And your reputation is at risk, and your brand gets compromised. So while you think about these new paradigms, these new opportunities, it is also important to think about human values, to think about your stakeholders, and to respect them. And that is as important a transformation that all companies will have to take over the next few years. Because you see, the World Wide Web and the cloud, as we talk about it, is at an inflection point. It is a place where we continue to live our lives and do business more and more every day. And as we use it in that fashion, we all collectively have the responsibility to govern it the right way. So I want to leave you with these thoughts. The world is changing. That provides opportunity. But to exploit that opportunity comes the need for change. And the need for change is not just about the technology. I think the technology is probably the least relevant part of it. I think the need for change is the way we think about things, the way we build teams, the way we respect multidisciplinary contributions to those teams, and the way we allow people to do their best work when they're with us. That's what we talk about at NetApp. We talk about being an engineering culture that allows the best people in the world the opportunity to do their best work and be at their best when they're with us. Thank you.